I'm Chris from Airwindows, and as usual I have a plugin for you today, but it is not what you might call a usual plugin. Forgive me if I'm a little spent. Stuff's been going on and I'm up very late, but I have something interesting to show you. And it's not just the fact that I'm working in Reaper, which I'm looking to get a little bit better at, but also I have got a plugin called Texturize. And you can do this. This is a subliminal sound plugin that is inspired by some current audio drama that's going on. We can turn it on for a little extra texture and vibe and things. Or turn it off. So you might be asking, what's going on here? Well, the idea was there is current talk going on and much debate as to whether it's snake oil or something about a plugin that is from another company that's designed to sort of make subliminal band-shaped noise in very specific ways that you introduce to the sound, and it gives everything sort of more life and interest and really livens up a sound. But there are just a few presets for this, and it's a very complicated arrangement, like patents and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, it's like sort of vocoded noise, only very, very, very faint. And the idea is you set it up so that you can't really hear what it's doing, and everything sounds more amazing. Well, I'm Chris from Airwindows, so I like to give people a little more things to play with than that. So you can also do this. We'll turn it on. There you have it. Noise that kind of matches the sound underlying it. And we've got two controls. One is punchy and one is bright. Bright does this. We'll turn it down. And that's going to focus much more on low frequencies. Or we can turn it up. Hey presto. Our noise is a lot weirder and more intense. It goes a lot brighter. Punchy does this. You can soften some of the drum impacts and things. Make it a little bit smoother this way. Although it can't ever be continuous noise because it has to sit underneath the sounds. Or we can make it be a lot more spiky like this. And bits of overtones and things jump out when you do that, but this is still strictly noise that's being modulated by the underlying sound, or the overlying sound rather. So you might ask, what would happen if this was the subliminal sound? This. Out. Just a little bit more. And our little reverb is a little bit flatter, it's not quite as deep, but then everything has just a little bit more texture, or we can exaggerate it. And now we actually have that additional energy poking out in a more obvious way. You get to turn it up until it sounds a little annoying. Or dial some of this stuff back. Or listen only to the noise, because this is what lies beneath. Or have it at 0.5 or less, it should be well behaved always. It will never get in your way or make a nasty, unpleasant sound, no matter what you've done to it. Like, even here. We've got the percussiveness poking out, but it's not a nasty, unpleasant sound. And now it is. And then if we turn this off, it's a little flatter. And that's what this noise thing does. But wait, there's a little more. You can do a rock track as well. The noise for that sounds like this. You'll notice that we can hear sibilants. And then if we increase the punchiness of it, and now, if we cut that in and out at a quieter level, just a tiny bit over 0.5. Out.
How could you believe me? I saw something very strange. For they were watching ponies on the New York Stock
It's
Exchange.
a little flatter.
People, they all joined their hands and they set up a chant. And Discord moves right through the screen like horror from Japan. And they sang Discord, welcome home. We're all so glad you're here. Discord, welcome home. We've longed for this for years. We're here to do your bidding, so don't you dare be sad. Let's get this party started, 'cause there's chaos to be had.
I think that kind of speaks for itself. So this is a subliminal shaped noise adder that has nothing to do with the other one that's been put out recently. If this is interesting to you, maybe you want to look into the other one. It's a company called MAT, M-A-A-T. And I think this might go some ways towards demonstrating that this is not necessarily snake oil, it's just in how you describe it. I'm choosing to describe it as this is taking noise and shaping it in a rather special way, kind of like this. And we hide this underneath the sound. Or you can smooth it right out, or soften it down. Notice that when you have proper high frequencies in your mix, the high frequencies will come out in the audio, but if it's all lows, like for instance, you're hearing some sound here, but a lot of this is heavy bass, and so it's not meant to be producing loud bursts of bright noise while the bass is happening. The bright noise is supposed to only combine with bright noises in the overlying track. And of course, the way that I'm doing this is not even close to anything that anybody else is doing, because this is an Airwindows plugin, so it's got a bit of a wild and crazy technology to let it do things like this. Here we have punchy and extremely dark now. In the track, it sounds like this. Or we can soften it right out. Hear the difference in those kick drums? From here to here. Or lower the highs from here to here. So, if you've been reading about these subliminal sound processors, I think I've managed to establish that that is a real thing. This is not snake oil, it's just something else that happens to the audio. The reason it gets described strangely is because it's very difficult to explain what the change in that sound is. Like, we'll go back to the rock track and set it up with all kinds of brightness and all kinds of punchy, the most exaggerated extreme thing you can get, and turn it up like this. Then we'll cut it in, and I defy you to easily describe what's changing in the... Oh, I'll take the brightness down just a hair. Punchy is probably fine for demonstration purposes, though, just so that it doesn't seem only like boosting and treble. And we go from this.
How could you believe me? I saw something very strange. For they were watching ponies on the New York Stock Exchange. People, they all joined their hands and they set up a chant. And Discord oozed right through the screen like horror from Japan. And they sang, Discord, welcome home. We're all so glad you're here. Discord, welcome home. We've longed for this for...
There is an obvious change in texture and sort of general attitude, like vibe, the way you focus on it somehow, but that is a difficult thing to describe in simple like EQ or compression or whatever words. So you're almost forced to get into the weird, spooky mojo of saying wild and crazy things about it. Because how would you describe the change in sound as we start going from here to here?
I saw something very strange. For they were watching ponies on the New York Stock Exchange.
And then you dial it back.
They set up a chant.
Completely dry. It is pretty flat.
Through the screen like horror from Japan. And they sang Discord, welcome.
And then we can boost it.
We're all so glad you're here. Discord, welcome home. We've longed for this for years. We're here to do your bidding, so don't you dare be sad. Let's get this party started, 'cause there's chaos to be had.
Now we just changed that so that we went to a medium setting, actually a little bit below 0.5, and it sort of was riding on a wave of surging bass, which was partly subsonic rumble, because the noise is coming through in subsonics. And that is not through it being divided up in frequency bands. It is actually a combination of things. One of them is a plugin that I had way back in the day called Silhouette. And Silhouette was for the purpose of taking the audio and literally replacing it with nothing but noise. No dry wet, no subliminally blending. It was literally for replacing the audio with pure noise so that you could hear what the dynamics did. And so I've already done the process of making noise that bursts and surges and hits with the percussiveness of the underlying sound. And the other part is another plugin that I've done called Voice of the Starship, which uses a way of making a subsonic rumble noise and centering it by making it drift back to the center in a characteristic way. And if you center it more often, you wind up suppressing the low frequencies out of the subsonic noise and getting more of a high frequency sound. So I thought, why not do this centering thing when the waveform crosses 0? Then if you have a high frequency sound, it's going to be centering much more and it won't let bass get through. And if you have low frequency waves, it will let bass get through a lot more easily. And that's what made up Texturize. Texturize is not like anything else anybody's got. It is simply the newest Airwindows plugin, and it is, I think, a good demonstration that this class of audio processors is not purely snake oil. It is doing something. So is the rival plugin, the Matt plugin that people are getting on about. And so if this sounds interesting to you, you might want to look into that as well, or at least understand that that's not a joke. It comes off as a joke, but it's not a joke. And playing with this can show you the kinds of things that you could expect out of another plugin like that, although this one is $99 cheaper. Because it is. My stuff is open source, MIT licensed. If they credited me, they could include that in their product if they wanted. You have to credit Airwindows if you're using the MIT stuff. But me doing this work is supported by Patreon, and I appreciate my patrons for helping me stick around and be here so that on a day like this, when I hear about this weird thing happening and I see a company who is making snake oily, interesting and creative talk about how their thing sounds, I can kind of come to their defense a little bit, but also put out a plugin. And mine is not a replacement for theirs. Mine is almost like proof of concept for theirs. And if you like it, then you might want to look into theirs, but you can have mine. And I hope you like it. I have nothing more to say than that. Thank you. Give me a moment. I'm shutting down. Thank you.